When the name Richard III is mentioned, many people instantly recall the iconic portrayal by Sir Laurence Olivier in the classic film adaptation of Shakespeare's play. The image of the evil hunchback king, driven by ambition and treachery, has been immortalized in literature and cinema, shaping popular perceptions of one of England's most enigmatic monarchs. His name echoes through history, a name whispered with fear and fascination. He was born into a world at war. England was locked in a bitter struggle for the throne. This was the Wars of the Roses. The House of York, represented by the white rose, clashed violently with the House of Lancaster, symbolized by the red rose. Richard, the youngest son of Richard, Duke of York, entered this maelstrom. He would forever be marked by its violence. Richard's childhood was far from idyllic. He was just 3 years old when the first battle of the Wars of the Roses erupted at St. Albans. His family, the Yorks, were initially victorious. However, the tide of war turned against them. Richard, along with his brother George, was sent to Utrecht for safety. They were young, innocent pawns in a deadly game of power. The death of their father, the Duke of York, at the Battle of Wakefield in 1460, shattered any semblance of normalcy. The young Richard, now 8 years old, was thrust further into the heart of the conflict. Richard's early life was a crucible, forging him into the resolute and ambitious figure he would become. In the shadow of the White Rose, there was a loyalty forged in blood. Edward IV, Richard's elder brother, emerged as the Yorkist champion. Richard, fiercely loyal, pledged his unwavering support. He was a skilled warrior, known for his courage and tactical acumen. Richard fought alongside Edward in several key battles. Together, they secured crucial victories for the Yorkist cause. Their bond, forged in the fires of war, was unbreakable. Richard proved himself a valuable asset to his brother. He never wavered in his loyalty to Edward. This steadfast dedication earned him his brother's trust and affection. Richard was rewarded with lands, titles, and positions of authority. Edward was the charismatic and popular king. Richard was the shrewd and pragmatic strategist. Together, they brought stability and prosperity to England after years of turmoil. The Duke of York was a steadfast anchor in a treacherous realm. Richard's abilities as an administrator were equally impressive. Edward recognized his brother's talents. He appointed him Constable of England, then Lord Protector of the North. These were not mere honorary titles. They came with immense responsibility. Richard excelled in both roles. As Constable, Richard was responsible for maintaining law and order. He was ruthless in suppressing dissent. He crushed rebellions with an iron fist. He earned a reputation for being a just, albeit harsh, ruler. He believed in the rule of law. He applied it equally to all, regardless of their social standing. As Lord Protector of the North, Richard faced a different challenge. The north of England was a wild and untamed land. Richard managed to secure the loyalty of the northern lords. He did so through a combination of diplomacy and military strength. Richard was a capable and efficient ruler. The sudden death of Edward IV in 1483 threw the kingdom into chaos. The accession of Richard III was heavily disputed. Edward's heir, young Edward V, was just 12 years old. Richard, as the boy's uncle and godfather, was named Lord Protector. He was tasked with governing the realm until his nephew came of age. However, Richard's path to the throne was fraught with obstacles. The Woodvilles, the family of Edward IV's widow, Elizabeth Woodville, were ambitious and power-hungry. They sought to control the young king and, by extension, the kingdom. Richard saw them as a threat to the stability of the realm. Richard moved swiftly. He intercepted the young king and his entourage on their way to London. He placed them under his protection at the Tower of London. If you've heard of the princes in the Tower but are unfamiliar with their identities, here's what allegedly transpired according to historical accounts and long-standing theories. The two young princes, Edward V and his younger brother Richard, Duke of York, were confined to the Tower of London by their uncle, Richard III, who had seized the throne. Their mysterious disappearance sparked widespread speculation and suspicion, with many believing they were murdered to secure Richard III's grip on power. This enduring mystery has captivated historians and the public alike, casting a shadow over Richard III's legacy. The disappearance of the princes in the Tower remains one of the most perplexing events in English history. The two boys, Edward V and his younger brother Richard, Duke of York, vanished without a trace. Their fate is unknown to this day. Rumors swirled around their disappearance. Some whispered that Richard had ordered their deaths to secure his own position. Others believed they were secretly spirited away to safety. The truth remains elusive, lost to the mists of time. Richard's role in the disappearance of the princes has been the subject of much debate. There is no concrete evidence to link him directly to their deaths. However, the fact that he benefited most from their removal from the line of succession casts a long shadow over his reign. Whether he was responsible for their deaths or not, the stain of their disappearance would forever tarnish his legacy. Richard III started a fleeting reign of reform. Despite the controversy surrounding his accession, Richard was determined to be a just and effective ruler. He understood that his legitimacy was in question. He sought to win the support of the people through his actions. Richard embarked on a series of legal reforms. He established the Court of Requests, a court of equity designed to provide justice for the poor who could not afford legal representation. He also reformed bail laws and restricted the use of livery and maintenance. Richard's reforms were short-lived. His reign lasted for only 2 years. However, they demonstrate his commitment to justice and his understanding of the need to curb the excesses of the nobility. His efforts to be seen as a just and fair ruler were largely overshadowed by the cloud of suspicion that hung over him. Richard III was the last Yorkist king. Richard's reign came to an abrupt and bloody end on August 22, 1485, at the Battle of Bosworth Field. Henry Tudor, a Lancastrian claimant to the throne, landed in Wales with a small force. He rallied support to his cause. Richard, caught off guard, hastily assembled an army to meet the Tudor threat. The two forces clashed on a windswept field near the village of Market Bosworth in Leicestershire. The battle raged for hours. Both sides fought with ferocity. Richard, a skilled warrior, led his men into the thick of the fight. He sought to reach Henry Tudor and kill him, hoping to end the battle quickly. However, Richard's daring charge proved to be his undoing. He was surrounded by Tudor's men and cut down. Richard III's death at Bosworth Field ushered in the Tudor era. The Tudors, eager to legitimize their claim to the throne, painted Richard as a monstrous tyrant. They accused him of countless crimes, including the murder of his nephews, the princes in the Tower. Shakespeare's play, Richard III, cemented this image in the public imagination. Richard became a byword for ambition and cruelty. He was portrayed as a deformed hunchback, a physical manifestation of his twisted soul. For centuries, Richard III's reputation remained tarnished. However, in recent decades, there has been a renewed interest in his life and reign. Historians have begun to question the traditional Tudor narrative. They have sought to uncover the truth behind the myth. Richard III's story is a reminder that history is often written by the victors, centuries later. In a twist of fate worthy of Shakespeare himself, Richard III's remains were discovered in 2012 beneath a car park in Leicester, the city where he fell in battle. This discovery sent shockwaves through the world. It reignited interest in the much-maligned king. The discovery was a momentous occasion. It provided an opportunity to re-examine Richard's life and death using modern scientific techniques. The analysis of his skeleton revealed that he suffered from scoliosis, a curvature of the spine. This confirmed some historical accounts of his appearance. However, it debunked the exaggerated portrayals of him as a deformed hunchback. The discovery of Richard's remains was more than just an archaeological find. After the discovery of his body, we are left questioning whether Richard III was a king judged by tainted history. Was his reputation a product of Tudor propaganda designed to reinforce their legitimacy, or was he truly a villain or a victim of his successor's cunning? The rediscovery of Richard III's remains has sparked a fierce debate about his legacy. Was he the ruthless tyrant depicted by the Tudors and Shakespeare? Or was he a victim of circumstance, a capable ruler whose reputation was unfairly tarnished by his enemies? There is no easy answer to this question. The evidence is contradictory. It is open to interpretation. Richard was a complex and contradictory figure. He was capable of both great acts of cruelty and remarkable displays of compassion. Those who believe in his guilt point to his seizure of the throne and the suspicious circumstances surrounding the disappearance of the princes in the Tower. They argue that these actions demonstrate his ruthlessness and his willingness to eliminate anyone who stood in his way. Richard III leaves us with a legacy filled with intrigue and unanswered questions. Richard III's reign, though brief, continues to fascinate us centuries later. His story is a complex weave of ambition, loyalty, betrayal, and tragedy. The discovery of his remains has only deepened the mystery surrounding him. It has provided us with more questions than answers. Was he a villain or a victim? Was he a loving uncle or a cold-blooded murderer? The debate rages on. Ultimately, the true nature of Richard III may forever remain an enigma. Despite the passage of centuries and the wealth of historical evidence, the full truth of his life and reign might never be fully known, leaving his story to be a compelling puzzle that continues to captivate and elude us. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing to our channel. We'd love to hear your thoughts on Richard III. Do you see him as a villain or a victim? Share your opinions in the comments below. Our young channel is beginning to build a steady following, and your feedback helps us shape future content. Let us know which monarchs or historical events you're interested in, so we can create the best possible documentaries for you. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more intriguing historical insights.